What's going on, guys? Vulkan here, and today we are talking about the largest patch that Last Epoch has ever received. This is a massive patch, and it seems like these patches are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we're getting closer and closer to release, because 0.7.7 was the largest patch before this one, so they seem to just be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So what exactly does this patch bring to the table? Why should you care about it? Is this enough for you to come back and check out the updates to the game? Let's talk about it, and we're going to get things kicked off with the newest chapter that was added to the game, Chapter 8, where you actually go toe-to-toe and fight with a god, the god of oceans and seas, Legon, cold, and lightning. So for those of you out there who have very low resistances to cold and lightning, I would consider buffing those up, because this guy dishes out some serious damage. And the cool thing with him is he's actually a multi-tiered boss fight, so he has multiple phases that you're going to have to go through. And it was a really cool boss fight, all kind of put together. It was cool to face off against a god and see how it all kind of came together. Now the cool thing about this particular chapter is you're going back in time to the Divine Era, and you actually get to see a lot of folks that you have either faced off against or you know about from stories and lore in game. So all in all, I really liked the chapter they added, but let's move into what actually changed with the game. What do we get to interact with? And the first thing I want to talk about in this category is the new stash system. This is to maximize your organization in your space, because when you're playing looters, you're going to have tons and tons of gear across all of your classes because the stash is shared. Now that's great and you have multiple tabs, but this system is fantastic because it adds a layering system. So you're able to create your own categories. So you see here I have like general, then I have unique, and I have set, and then acolyte, you can add that, and then add sentinel, and then underneath those categories you can add subcategories or sub tabs, however you want to kind of refer to them, where under unique I have, u.weapons, so unique weapons, and I have unique armor, and same thing with sets. You're able to go through and kind of optimize that however you would like. It's a really good gold sink because these tabs are not cheap. So this is something that's often overlooked by action RPG and looter developers, that hey, you know what, here's a stash, it has 10 tabs, go wild, that's all you got, and Path of Exile will sell you some more. They actually took the time to build a really good stash system into this game and allow people to just purchase stash tabs right there using their gold. They give you quite a few out of the gate, but then as you become more and more seasoned in the game, then you're going to be able to purchase more and more tabs, acquire more and more gear, and kind of grow your vault per se. Beyond the stash, they had two new skills, Spirit Plague and Death Seal for the Acolyte, and they adjusted Ice Barrage for the Mage. So Spirit Plague is a necrotic damage over time skill that can spread to nearby enemies. It does have a specialization tree. Death Seal is an effect that removes ward and then caps your health wherever it's at. And while this is active, it increases all of your damage dealt and reduces your damage taken. Then when you toggle it off again, it unleashes a wave of damage. I haven't had a chance to mess with Death Seal quite yet, but it's very, very interesting. Spirit Plague I am building around, and it's incredibly fun. You can take it and optimize it. So right now, it deals necrotic damage right out of the gate. You can make it so it deals poison damage, that applies bleeds, that it slows things down, that it increases your global damage over time. So there's a lot that you can do with Spirit Plague. And then the last one is Ice Barrage. Now, Ice Barrage has been in the game for quite some time, but I wasn't a huge fan because it was this slow shooting turret style ability that rooted your character and didn't really fit well into the fast-paced lifestyle of Last Epoch. So what they did was they took Ice Barrage and made it a single cast skill, and the cool thing is whatever direction you cast it in, it continues shooting ice shards in that direction. So if you are aiming towards the top of your screen and you click it, then those things continue shooting towards the top of your screen. You can move back and forth with your character, you can cast other skills, you can multitask while this is continuing to shoot. So if you're building a Frost Mage or something like that, you want to go heavy into chill, then Ice Barrage now has a place on your bar, because you can continuously deal frost damage. These ice shards do have a homing ability on them, so they will seek out nearby enemies, and you can combine this with things like Glacier or Volcanic Orb if you flipped it to a Frost Orb. So there's a lot you can kind of do there. I like this change. I think it's a solid change. I need to get a little bit more time with it before I'm comfortable recommending it, but this is something that I really, really like initially. So beyond that, they also added in a massive armor overhaul in Last Epoch. I'm talking a massive armor overhaul. Helmets and chest piece are now class specific with their own loot, and they change the appearance of your character. And this has been something that really we've been asking for a very, very long time. So I want to be able to put on gear, and my character should change appearance when I put on different pieces of gear. So they did do that. Now you're going to start seeing chest pieces that are Sentinel only, Acolyte only, Primalist only. Same thing with your helms. Now it's only helmets and chest pieces. So gloves, boots, rings, these are still generic. They're usable for all classes. If you have old helmet or chest pieces that are generic, those will stay there, like the dome cap, for instance. Those will stay and those are fine. But if you are equipping something that is no longer going to be used for that class, like my Acolyte, I logged in and she had her chest piece missing, her helm missing, and I had to go out and find some new stuff. So those ones will no longer drop as well. So the dome pieces, those are no longer going to drop, and you're only going to see armor for your specific class from now on. And the cool thing with this is they're able to actually add some additional affixes. So if you look at your idle system, you'll see things like reduces poison damage while Aura of Decay is active. Those are now affixes that can appear on gear, so you can start stacking those up. Or things like minions have an increased bleed chance for Acolytes or for Primalists. So you have all of these things that are a little bit more character specific and give you additional affixes to chase after to maximize your build. So I like it. Wonderful change. Keep it coming, guys. Next up, they added in the game guide. Now, the game guide is going to explain key concepts and mechanics of the game. This is something they talked about a while back. It kind of got paused, but now it's finished and they put it into the game. So having something like this is extremely helpful for new players because it explains things like, what is ward? What are masteries? How do I unlock this? What is this affix? What is this prefix? What is crafting? And you can just open this thing up and click through it and learn all about it. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been playing the game and I love answering questions and helping the community, but a lot of people were really confused about what ward is. So having something like this where I can just say, hey, click G and there's ward and there's everything else you could probably think of in there, and people will just love it. So this was a great addition. More games need to have something like this, in my opinion, especially for new guides. I know a lot of people talk about Destiny 2 and how confusing that is for new players, so take notes. We can cross genres a little bit. This is a good addition. On top of all that stuff, the passive skill trees were actually adjusted to be a little bit more consistent. So before, when you were leveling and you had a new character, you had to invest 20 points into your base class tree, like your Sentinel tree, your Acolyte tree. Then once that happened, you just were suddenly able to start putting points into a mastery class, whatever you wanted. Well, now they changed it to be a little bit smoother, a little bit more streamlined. So with this patch, you actually have to go through the mastery quest first in end time and select your mastery before you can start putting points into any of the mastery trees. This makes it a little bit more clear, adds some more importance to your mastery quest, and in order to facilitate this, they added a couple extra rows to the base class so you can spend more points and continue working upwards until you reach a time where you can actually do your mastery quest. So this is a pretty good change. I like it, and it's something, once again, that's going to help new players get into the game. Because before it was like, okay, now I have my 20 points, I'm putting all my points into Druid, but how do I unlock the Druid mastery? And then they completely miss the mastery quest, and they're kind of continuing on, and they're like, well, I don't really know what to do. So having something like this, where you talk to the individual in end time, and then they open up the portal next to the Forgotten Night, gives you a little bit more direction to, you're going to go here and you're going to choose your mastery, and at that point you can start putting things into your mastery tree. So I do like that. I like the additions. Let's keep moving. They added in 3 new uniques: the Solar Run Step for all classes, a mage headpiece called the Ashen Crown, and a new body armor for acolytes called the Shroud of Obscurity. So get out there and check those out. If you do want to see what they do ahead of time to see if they're worth grinding for, there is a link in the description below. That is to a database of all the items within Last Epoch. I use it to kind of come up with builds and things like that, so it's a great knowledge resource. But lastly, let's move into the last thing I want to talk about before wrapping this one up, and that is the Mage had a complete animation overhaul, and it looks fantastic. So this is how the Mage is mostly going to look by launch. There might be a few kind of tweaks and things like that, but it looks much better than it did before. It's less stiff, it's more fluid, and now we just have to wait for the Sentinel and the Acolyte to get their animation updates, and then everything will be looking good and we'll be all done with the animation side of the house. And that's really the last thing that a lot of people have complaints about is, hey, the characters look a little stiff, look a little old school. So this is nice. Now, obviously, there's a ton more that got added into this patch. These are just the top big things that would bring people back. There's tons of bug fixes, there's tons of optimization passes, there's a lot of changes to affixes, everything like that. The full list of patch notes is in the description below, but I want to hear from you guys. Have you got to play this new patch yet? What do you guys think about it? And I want to know, has anyone tried the new Death Seal, Spirit Plague, or Ice Barrage rework? Because those I'm very curious to see if we can build around. As always, guys, thank you so much for the support. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.